Good morning, boys and girls. I'm Eleanor Hawkins, and welcome to Telestory Time. You know, Valentine's Day is one of my very favorite days of the year. And you know, it's almost here. And I want to read you about St. Valentine's Day. I love you is a message we all send to people we like on this happy day. Some of us buy lovely, fancy cards to send, and some of us make our own. Will you be my Valentine means, will you be my special friend? A long time ago, it used to mean, will you marry me? That is why hearts and cupids are used to decorate everything on this day. And over here is a little Valentine. To my Valentine, roses are red, violets are blue, sugar is sweet, and so are you. This I've read from Heydays and Holidays, a very old book. And now I want you to get very comfortable so that I can read you the story of Valentine's Day. On Valentine's Day, we give cards, cookies, and candy to people we like. In school, children decorate classrooms with red hearts, and they give Valentines to their friends. But do you know why we celebrate Valentine's Day? Long, long ago in the city of Rome, there lived a man named Valentine. Oh, he was kind and all the children loved him. One day the king of Rome made a law. He said, all young men will be in my army. They cannot ever get married. The young men and women were very sad. Valentine tried to help the young men and women. The king became very angry and threw Valentine into jail. Now the children were sad to see Valentine in jail. They made cards and wrote letters and sent them to Valentine. One little girl who was blind brought food to Valentine. Oh, he thanked her and prayed for her. And then, boys and girls, a miracle happened. The little girl could see. Valentine sent the little girl a letter and signed it from your Valentine. On February the 14th, we remember Valentine. All over the world, people send cards called Valentines to celebrate this special day. On Valentine's Day, we show our love for our friends and family with gifts and cards. And like Valentine and the children of Rome, we remember that all God's children should love one another. Boys and girls, that is the story of Valentine's Day. And now stay tuned, and in just a moment, I'm going to share with you my collection of Valentines that I've been collecting for many years. So please stay tuned. Boys and girls, I've been collecting Valentines for many years, and one of my very first ones that I started to collect was this wooden book that a little boy in Greensboro made for me back in the early 50s when I did Telestory Time there. And he has right here a beautiful velveteen Valentine, and it's on, it's actually wooden. He made it out of wood, and over here it says, to my Valentine. And you know, it even looks like we have the pages there. And on the back, he actually signed it, Larry Coble, many years ago. And now, boys and girls, Valentines have changed through the years. They used to have honeycomb paper, you see, and this says Sweet Dreams. And then this is another pop-up. And we see here that this is really, I'll have to handle it carefully. This is really a boat, and it says Happy Valentine's Day, an old-fashioned greeting. And then this is one of my very favorites that my husband gave me many years ago. And I have to open it carefully because this is a lacy Valentine. And you see it's done by laser cut and just beautiful. It couldn't be prettier with birds and flowers and a beautiful heart Valentine in the middle. And then this is a book, Valentine. Happy Valentine's Day to you. The Legend of Saint Valentine. And then here we have lace and ribbons, and that's what was usually the symbol of Valentine's in the Victorian time. And then when I was a little girl, this is the Valentine that I received. To my Valentine, and this was typical of all the Valentines then, and inside, if I can open it, I sort of shake because all of a sudden I'm 90 years old. You're one of my favorite people, and maybe you already know, but on such a special occasion, I can't resist telling you so. And that's to all of you boys and girls. And then this is a very special Valentine. This is by Mary Olive Jones, and boys and girls, this is paper cutting, and and also she did calligraphy. But this paper cutting is called Snitta, and it's cut by scissors in black paper. And here she says, for Carol, Eleanor and Carol, greetings and love, sweet love, Mary Olive, 2003. And she's a famous Snitta person. She has some of her work in the Smithsonian. And this, boys and girls, is one of the very first Valentines that I have enclosed in plastic, because this was done by Tuck, who printed the very first Christmas cards in Boston, and then he later made Valentines. So this is special. And then, boys and girls, this is a special one that was printed in Germany. And you see, there's a book. And then this one is an ice cream cone. It's not an ice cream cone. It's not a Valentine. It's just a bit of fan mail for a favorite friend of mine. It closes right back up. And then this is very much like the Valentines through the years, thinking of you on Valentine's Day. And here, an old-fashioned wish. And here it shows Victorian people. And then I have to go pretty fast here. This is a special Valentine that shows old Valentines, pictures of them on this. And then this one is a very large one, and it says, with love. Because you're warmly thought of, and because you're special too, this is coming to say, hope your Valentine's Day is pleasant for you. And it was playing, I love you truly. And now I have a special Valentine to read to you. One that I bought this year, especially for my husband, and we've been married 66 years. Your love is a blessing. You and I have had many unforgettable experiences. You know me as my best and at my worst. And through it all, I felt your love. We are a perfect match, a couple guided every day by God's loving hand. I'm so happy that you are the one that I share my life with. On Valentine's Day, I want you to know that I love you more than ever. And that's for you, my dear husband, Carol, of 66 years. Boys and girls, stay tuned, and we'll be back with another story in just a moment. And now, boys and girls, I'm going to read the Tasty Pasty Valentine. Little Gray Mouse looked around his cozy little home. Oh, I am the lucky one, he thought. Now he was lucky. His little hole in the wall was just right. The house he lived in was just right, too. People lived in the house, of course, a mother, a father, a boy, and a girl. But Gray Mouse did not mind that. Oh, they are nice, quiet people, Mouse told his friends. They don't give me much trouble. And they did have a fine kitchen. A fella could always pick up a little snack at bedtime. Little Gray Mouse lived in a hole in the wall of the boy's room. Oh, now that was lucky too, for the boy left such good crumbs, cake crumbs, bread crumbs with peanut butter. Yum! But sometimes the boy would not stay in his room, right in Gray Mouse's room. That was the trouble right now. Mouse wanted to go down to the kitchen. He wanted to go down very, very much, for he could smell cheese. Lovely, lovely cheese. But the boy was in the room, and so was the girl. They were sitting at the table, working. Now, why don't you go out to play, little Gray Mouse thought. But the boy and the girl went on working. They had red paper and white paste and scissors. Snip, snip, they cut up the red paper. Swoosh, swoosh, they put paste on the red paper, here and there. Oh dear, said the girl, something's wrong. The ones I make look funny. Mine look kind of funny too, said the boy. I don't make them look right. I just can't make them look right. The girl looked as if she wanted to cry. Oh dear, she said, I especially wanted them to look pretty. Well, let's get them done anyway, said the boy, and then we can go out and play. Yes, indeed, thought little Gray Mouse. Do get done. Do go away. How he did want to get to that cheese. At last the boy and girl stood up. They put the red papers on the floor. Oh, I do wish they looked better, said the girl. Come on, said the boy. They'll dry soon. Maybe they will look better then. And they ran out to play. Little Gray Mouse popped up out of his hole. He was about to scamper down to the kitchen, but suddenly he stopped. Sniff, sniff. Oh, what a wonderful smell. Sniff, sniff. Why, it came from the red papers on the floor. Oh, it was the wonderful smell of white paste. Little Gray Mouse ran to the red papers and began to nibble at them. Nibble, nibble, nibble. Oh, delicious. He nibbled all around the red papers, in and out and around and around. Nibble, nibble he went, wherever there was that wonderful taste of paste. Best meal I've had around here in a long time, he said happily. Soon it was so full that he did not even go down to the kitchen. Instead, he went back to his cozy little mouse house for a good after-nibble nap. Little Gray Mouse was still sleeping when the boy and girl returned. They ran into the room, and then they stopped in astonishment. Look at our valentines, cried the boy. Oh, why, they're beautiful, cried the girl. She jumped up and down and clapped her hands. I wonder who did this for us, said the boy. They look as if they've been nibbled. Nibbled? The boy and the girl looked at each other and began to laugh. I know who did it, said the boy. So do I, said the girl. And we must say thank you. Soon after that, little Gray Mouse woke up from his nap. Something wonderful woke him in the middle of a dream. Sniff, sniff. Oh, he'd never smelled anything so good before, and it came from the boy's room. Gray Mouse ran out of his hole as fast as he could. What's this? Said the mouse in surprise. Why, there in the middle of the room was some red paper. There in the middle of the red paper was a piece of cheese, and there on the cheese was some paste. There were words on the red paper. They said, "Be our Valentine." But Little Gray Mouse didn't care about words. Cheese and paste. It's not often that you can eat cheese and paste at the same time. "Oh, what a happy day," he said happily. "What a lovely, lovely day." Yes, right there on Valentine's Day, he had helped make the Valentines. And that is the story of the tasty, pasty Valentine. And now, boys and girls, stay tuned, and we'll be back with another Valentine story in just a moment. And now, boys and girls, I'm going to read you my favorite fairy tale, Cinderella. Once upon a time, there was a girl who was as good as she was beautiful. She lived with her stepmother and her two stepsisters. Oh, they were cruel to her because she was more beautiful than they were. They made her scrub and clean all day long and gave her only rags to wear. At night she slept in the chimney corner because she was always covered with ashes, and they called her Cinderella. One day the king's son announced that he was going to give a ball. Cinderella's two stepsisters were invited. They began to choose silks and laces for their ball gowns, and jewels and feathers for their hair. They talked of nothing else but how fine they would look at the palace ball. "Oh, you can fix our hair for us," they said to Cinderella. Oh, she fixed their hair in different ways and did her best to make them look beautiful. But no matter how hard she tried, Cinderella still looked more beautiful than they, even in her rags. This made the stepsisters angry. "Well, why don't you go to the ball too, Cinderella?" they asked. The poor girl looked down at her rags and said, "Oh, how I wish I could go." Then they all laughed at her and said, "Imagine a cinder wench at the prince's ball." With tears in her eyes, Cinderella watched her stepsisters get into their coach and depart for the ball. Just the same, "I do wish I could go," she whispered to herself. At that very moment she heard a voice behind her saying, "And so you shall, my child." Cinderella turned around and there stood a lovely lady with a crown on her head. "I am your fairy godmother," she said, "and I shall prepare you for the prince's ball. First, run into the garden and get the biggest pumpkin you can find." Cinderella ran into the garden and brought back the pumpkin. The fairy waved her wand over the pumpkin. It was changed instantly into a splendid red coach with gold trimmings. "Now we need 6 horses," said the fairy godmother. "Run and fetch the mousetrap." Cinderella brought the mousetrap, and there were 6 lively little mice in the trap. The fairy waved her wand, and the mice became 6 prancing white horses with tassels on their heads. "Now we need a coachman," said the fairy. "Bring the rat trap." Cinderella brought the rat trap with one big rat sitting in it. The fairy waved her wand, and the rat became a coachman with a coachman's hat and a plume on his head. He jumped up on the coach and took the reins in his hands. "Now we need a footman too," said the fairy. 6 will do. Run and fetch 6 green lizards." Cinderella brought back the lizards, and the fairy waved her wand, and immediately there were 6 footmen dressed in purple livery, trimmed in gold. "There," said the fairy, "are you happy now?" Oh, but my clothes," said Cinderella, looking down at her rags. The fairy godmother laughed gently and touched Cinderella with her wand. Cinderella's rags fell off, and she was dressed in a magnificent ball gown of golden silk. Oh, there were diamonds in her hair. and on her feet twinkled two lovely little glass slippers. "And now off to the ball," said the fairy. "But you must remember that the magic ends at midnight. You must be home at 12 o'clock or you will find yourself again in rags." Cinderella promised to be back at midnight and rode off to the ball. When Cinderella arrived at the ball, everyone whispered, "What a beautiful princess! I wonder who she is." Even the two stepsisters did not recognize Cinderella, but they were very envious. "The prince dances with no one but her," they said to each other. Indeed, Cinderella and the prince were the handsomest couple on the dance floor, and the prince never left her side. When supper was served, he picked out the choicest fruits and cakes for her, and then he took Cinderella by the hand and led her to the king and Cinderella, and he told the king and queen that he loved her. Cinderella was so happy that she quite forgot about the time. Suddenly she heard the clock strike the first note of 12 midnight, and quickly she curtsied to the prince, and then fled from the room and out of the castle. She hurried down the steps, and just as she was about to step into the coach, the last note of 12 sounded. The coach vanished. Before her eyes, there on the ground lay a pumpkin. The rat and the mice scurried off, and the lizards crawled away in the dust. Cinderella stood there dressed in rags again. The lovely little glass slippers were all that remained, but Cinderella had lost one of the slippers on the marble steps when she hurried down. She limped home on the other slipper, and she reached the chimney corner just as her sisters arrived. The next morning, everyone was awakened by the sound of a bugle. A messenger from the palace called out the news that the prince had found the glass slipper, and he was going to take it to every house in the kingdom until he found its owner. When he found the girl, she would become his bride. All the ladies in the kingdom were so excited they hurried to put on their best dresses for the prince's visit, but Cinderella had nothing to wear but her rags. The prince went to every house looking for the beautiful girl, and at last he came to Cinderella's house. Cinderella's stepsisters pushed her aside, and they both tried to squeeze their toes into the slipper, but they couldn't. "Oh, please let me try," said Cinderella in a shy voice. "You," cried the stepsisters, "go back to your cinders." But the prince looked at her for a long time and knew her lovely face. He knew that he had seen that face before. "Oh, let me try." "Oh, please let her try," said the prince. Cinderella slipped her foot into the glass slipper easily, and then to everyone's amazement she drew the other slipper out of her pocket and put it on her foot. At that moment the fairy godmother appeared, and with her wand touched Cinderella, and there she stood, dressed again in the splendid ball gown. The prince gazed at her with joy, and he knelt at her feet and said, "This is my own true bride." Oh, a great wedding was held, and Cinderella was so happy that she forgave her stepsisters. And you know, Cinderella and the prince lived happily ever after, and that is the story of Cinderella. And now, boys and girls, I have time enough to read you this poem. The Valentine Castle. Oh, there's an old castle where once lived a king. Fairies now live there, and birds nest and sing. And once every year, on Valentine's Day, there's a hustle and bustle, for magic holds way. Yes, Cupid is busy, he knows from the start. Wherever he aims, love springs from the heart. There's ribbon and lace, sweet verses galore. Put them together, they're off to your door. The castle resounds with sentiments old, sweeter they grow, more often retold. Bluebirds and fairies, forget-me-nots too, sing it and say it, I love you, I do. The castle is yours forever and aye. What could be sweeter than Valentine's Day? And now, boys and girls, I want to wish all of you boys and girls in the Craven Pamlico Carver Regional Library System, and from WCTI TV 12, and of course from Telestory Time. We want to wish you a very, very happy Valentine's Day. It's not doing it.